And it's controversial, but I don't really care.
Do it, say it.
Consider yourself rebuked, Harvard Business Review.
You have to earn the right to get to the next level.
Process audit, not people audit.
I just want to see this done faster.
How many licks does it actually take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I was kind of being facetious a little bit.
3,
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
2,
It's true.
1.
But we can cut that out.
Welcome to another episode of the Optimized Hour. Got Coach Gary joining us again, and we're going to talk about something that we did not get to in our last episode, obsession. And I know I feel like this has been a part of multiple conversations we've had over the last couple of months. It comes up about being obsessed about something. And so let's just jump right into it. What do you think obsession is, and what does it mean to be obsessed in business or personal life?
So I think obsession is usually described by lazy people as a bad thing of people that want to achieve something great in life. And I think it's the next layer of passion. And I think purpose creates a passion for something, and then a passion creates an obsession. And obsession is more of like, I can always tell when somebody's locked in on obsession is because they're usually singly focused, right? They're really driven on what they're going to accomplish. Medically, I can think back to 2011, and in 2011, when I was sick with Lyme disease, I remember becoming very obsessed about figuring out what was wrong with me. Like, I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know it was Lyme. I just knew that I wasn't feeling well. I was struggling. I had to step down from my executive position in Chicago. I had to take FMLA and short-term and then long-term disability. And then, I just couldn't even operate. I couldn't focus. I couldn't get my mindset proper, to do my job. So I had to take time away. And all my energy, all my focus that I did muster up was 100% or 1000% directed at figuring this out. Like, what's wrong with me? Even to the point where, I remember, my wife was looking at me one time and she was like, you know what? This is a problem. You've got to accept what the doctors are telling you, that this is anxiety and depression, and you just got to take the pill, and that kind of thing. And on honesty, I didn't feel 100% supported in that moment. I was like, no, there's something wrong with me that's more than just anxiety and depression. And because I was so obsessed about it, I literally was making phone calls, hiding on the side of the house, Dylan. Went outside, hiding outside, making phone calls to different doctors and stuff, trying to figure it out. And that's obsessed, right? That's when you're literally pushing your hardest to get to a result, and nobody around you is in support of it at that point. And I think people around you almost criticize you. When you're passionate about something, people look at you and go, man, I'm inspired by them. Look how passionate they are about that. But when you become obsessed about winning, you become obsessed about getting to a result, I think a lot of people look at you in a down way, and it's like, hey, this isn't healthy. A lot of times obsession is associated with unhealthiness. And but we all do it to some degree. We find something in life that we become obsessed about, whether it's a person, that we're courting and trying to marry one day, right? In that moment, guarantee you, when you were dating your now wife, you were obsessed about her, right? You were going towards a cause or a result of marriage, right? And so she was everything. She was your focus. And again, it goes back to that singular focus mindset where it's you're not looking at anybody else at that point. This is who you want. This is who you're trying to win over. This is who you want to marry. You're going after it. And the same thing has to happen in business. I read stories and kind of studied this topic, and if you look at it, there's a lot of good videos out there on social about high income earners, high producers, celebrity type statuses in business that they can tell you their story of obsession. They can tell you when it meant more to win than anything else, right? They'll tell you and other people criticize them in those moments for it. But I'll tell you, I think at the end of the day, studying obsession and understanding how it can still be healthy, is almost a necessary ingredient to hitting success. You have to be obsessed to be successful with where you're going to go and what you want to do. You could reach levels of success, but you're never going to reach your true level of success without a singular focus an obsession to get there. And I think you have to be willing to do that in order to get there.
Do you think there's a difference between being kind of passionate towards something versus being obsessed with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think passion, I think people can be passionate about something, but I think passion, when motivation goes away, passion kind of goes away with it. Obsession just kind of keeps your mindset locked in, whether you feel good about it or not. You're gonna figure it out. I promise you, when I was sick, like there were days I'm like, man, maybe I should just take the pill. Maybe I need, but like because I was so obsessed about figuring it out, I wasn't willing to hear that answer. And failure wasn't an option. Passion, you can fail with passion. Obsession, you don't typically fail with obsession.
I think there's a part of you where you're willing to fail because you're so obsessed with it, and like I think that's people who get to great success, high levels of success and achievement, all the chips they went all in and were willing to lose it all for the thing they were obsessed about. um how do you transfer that over to your team? And I think about like a Steve Jobs and other CEOs that even got booted out of their own companies, for variety of reasons, obviously, but there's an obsession about things, and people are not aligned with you on that. How do you, as a leader, a CEO, a business owner, when you're obsessed about something, transfer that at least a little bit to your team where they can align with you on that?
Yeah, I don't think we ever push to the point where we need everybody around us, especially our leaders of our organizations that are supporting us or working with us, to be obsessed about what we're obsessed about. I think the key to it is getting them passionate about it. So like they're just one step down from where you are, but they need to be at least passionate about what it is. They need to want to see this happen. They need to be there because they want to see it happen versus having to be there to see it happen. And so I don't ever like push down on the people that are working with me and say, hey, you have to be at the level of obsession about this as I am. I honestly, I don't want that. I want them to have their own obsessions and what they want to achieve in life. But I do need them to still be passionate about it. Without passion, then they're doing it because they have to, not because they want to. I think about like Mr. Beast, for example, if you know who that is. And I think, the world today, he's hit in a lot of different stages with, his game on TV and then, all the money he's made on YouTube and all that. But like his amount of videos that he produced at like 11 to 13 years old showed a sign of obsession. Like I think it was like 14,000 videos. Like he was obsessed with getting there, right? And like nobody would have ever predicted. I guarantee at some point at 12, 11, 12, 13 years old, somebody was like you're a little much with this. You need to calm it down. And so like I think if he was my child, I probably would have been a little concerned. Like why is he so obsessed with this at this age? Is this healthy for him? And again, that's how we measure it with people. We look at it and go, wow, I wonder if this is healthy for them. And when you have an obsession to something and it's done in the right way, it's pointed in the right direction, it's helping people, it's helping you achieve goals, things like that, then I don't look at it as a negative thing. Because I find that when people have the ability to have an obsession with something and they don't put it in the right places, it ends up in the wrong places. And they still become obsessed with stuff, but become obsessed with unhealthy things. Drinking. That's what an addiction is. It's like being addicted to the wrong stuff.
How do you find a I know you prefer the term harmony in these things versus balance. So to not just completely, upend other relationships or different things. If you're a leader in a business and you become kind of obsessed about something that's outside of that business a little bit, not completely lose that or lose relationships in your life. How do you harmonize all that?
Well, I mean, I think you got to be careful not to forfeit responsibility for pleasure. And so if you're becoming obsessed about something that's not within the realm of your responsibility, then it's not a good obsession. It becomes, a negative focus. And so like if it's the business you own, be obsessed about it. If it's a person you're in a relationship with, be obsessed with them. If it's your kids you're raising, be obsessed about being a great dad, right? If you're trying to lose weight, be obsessed about losing weight. If you're trying to get healthy, be obsessed about getting healthy. Like, proper relationships always support other proper relationships, whether that's relationship with people or relationship with items or ventures in life. But you have to make sure that they're proper, and if they are, then they are a responsibility. And we never forfeit a responsibility for pleasure. In other words, if I become so obsessed about doing something, I think that's why people struggle so much with like gambling, for example, because why does it become an addiction? Because is it a fun thing to do? Yeah, it is. Gambling is a very fun thing to do. Like, people do it all the time, and they become obsessed about it, right? But what it does, if it's not like their career, their focus, like there are people that this is their full-time thing. But if it's not and it becomes an obsession for them, that doesn't support paying the bills. It doesn't support them going to work. They skip out on work. It doesn't support them taking care of the responsibilities in life. Then it's a negative obsession, right? And so, like, that's how we create the balance. We create the balance by being obsessed about the right things, the things that are going to protect the relationships we have in our lives, not the negative.
Do you think this is where establishing personal purpose, company purpose, setting goals helps you direct that obsession and keep it in line with what you're trying to accomplish as an individual, what you're trying to accomplish as a company?
Yeah, I mean, in Rise, we talk about the key purpose indicator. What is your purpose and how are you measuring it? And I think anything that you're going to focus on in life, business, and then reach that level of obsession in order to achieve it, better be filtered out based on that purpose. So if it doesn't help you reach your purpose, you can't measure it in the way it would reach your purpose, then you probably shouldn't chase that idea. That's what your filter is. Your life's filter is based on your purpose. And so, like, that's what I'm always gauging when I'm looking at opportunity, ideas, because I do have an obsessive type personality. So I could get wrapped up in something that doesn't benefit that purpose. And if I did, and it pulls me away, that's not a good place to be.
How often do you think, because yeah, everybody's different on this, you look at your own purpose, you look at a company purpose as an individual, as a CEO, how often can you, maybe not completely 180, but shift those things a little bit in life to where you're keeping that, you're still obsessed about the purpose, but maybe that's like, as you get married, you have children, they leave the house, you different things in life, you start a business, you move up in a corporate ladder, fill in the blank, the purpose may shift a little bit. How often can you do that and still stay focused and accomplish those goals?
Well, I mean, I think that's where the filter comes back into play. Like, I always recommend you should be checking your purpose at least once a year. In the Rise Business Framework, we have a framework that talks about how to discover your purpose. And there's a lot of great books. Brandon loves Here on a Mission. There's, Purpose Driven Life, Start With Why by Simon Sinek, Intentional Living by John Maxwell. Like, there's so many good books out there that can help you discover your purpose today. But once you know your purpose, you ought to check in on it regularly. Because purpose at the end of the day comes from three major areas. It comes from our past, which is things we love to do. And the reason I say your past is because usually it's something you've experienced already. So it's in our past. But that's where we gain a love for something is from our past because we have the experience with it. Two is the present, right? We call it a present because it's a gift. Every day is a present because it's a gift. And so I always ask, what gift do you have today that the world around you could benefit from? And then third is, what do you want to be remembered for? That's the future, right? Like, when this all is said and done, what do we want to be remembered for? And so, like, when we answer those three questions, we find somewhere within those answers lies our purpose, right? Where we are. And that purpose, I said earlier, creates a passion, right? And that passion drives you to an obsession, to achieving it. And that's what the ingredients are. Now, backing that all the way up, should we still be obsessed about this? Should this still be our purpose, right? Or should we still be passionate about it? And then should this still be our purpose? Well, every year we're checking those three answers. And we find that people's purposes in life can change. You just notated it. And you're like, depending on where you are in life and kids and leaving home and marriage and health. And, I have a good friend of mine right now. You know him. And God bless him. He is going through a battle. He's had nothing but great results in his business, his personal life over the last many years. And recently found out he has cancer. And he's young. And he's been, in a healthy way, obsessed about reaching the level of success that he's at and where he wanted to be in his next 10 years of his life, next decade of his life. But he's looking at it right now going, I don't know if I want that to still be my purpose. Why? Because he's been hit with that C word, right? Like, it's changed things, right? And so the present moment right now has shifted his purpose, his focus. So where's his obsession showing up? He's obsessed about getting better. I saw a post just from him yesterday of all the tinctures and the healthy eating and the habits that he's changing and like organics and juicing and like Mayo Clinic and all these things. Why? Because he's obsessed about finding an answer. He's obsessed about getting better. And you know what? He better be. Right? That's not something right there you just want to be passionate about. That's not something right there. Just like, well, if it happens, it happens. Like you have to go on the full defensive fight to save your life. Nobody's going to fight harder than you. And you have to be obsessed about getting to that goal of health. Right? And when that happens in somebody's life, we hear this story. We're rooting for them. And we give them the pass on the obsession of getting healthy. But we don't give them the pass on the obsession of like their other levels of purpose and what they're trying to accomplish. And listen, that's the thing. Like when we evaluate purpose, we look at it and go, do I still love to do this? Number two, does the gift I have right now in my life help the people around me? And number three, what do I want to be remembered for? And when any one of those change, then your purpose is shifting. I've been in masterminds for 20 years, it seems like, to be exact, probably 15 years, right? It's just about 2011. So going on 15 years. And I've seen year over year guys come into mastermind, highly successful individuals, 6, 7, 8, 9, income earner. I mean, really successful people looking at the room going, I'm not feeling this anymore. Like, I have never been more depressed. I don't know what my purpose is. I just feel like I feel like I'm at loss for what I need to accomplish in life. And what it is, and they don't realize it in that moment, and they realize it later, is that their purpose has shifted. And the purpose is gone, so they're no longer obsessed about winning. They're no longer obsessed about getting where they are, or maybe they've already gotten there and they don't have a new focus. But then they lose their passion. When that passion goes away, the Bible says where there's no vision, the people perish. I think a part of the word vision is a passion, is an obsession to reach somewhere, to get somewhere. And when that's gone, people feel downtrodden. They start to get depressed. And that's why purpose is so important in our lives, because it's the ingredient, to getting the results that we want. Obsession is just a result of having the right purpose. That's what it is. And when it's not driven off the purpose, it's an addiction. And that's the biggest difference. Like, are you addicted to something that's not healthy, or are you obsessed about something that's healthy? Because we all have the inherent traits in us where we direct it. So like think about Moses in the Bible, right? Moses was, building cities for Pharaoh. What changed that for him, Dylan? Why did he stop building cities for Pharaoh? Because he killed somebody? And then what happened from there? Yeah. And then God changed his what? His purpose. He said, you're going to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Now, I, reading back on that story, look back and think, well, this was God's plan. God was using these events, these tragic events, in order to shift his purpose to get him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Because I don't know that he would have ever done it if none of those events would have transpired. And even then, he argued with God and said, I'm not your guy. Right? So, like, that's what we do when our life starts to shift our purpose. Is sometimes we look at it and go, it can't be. Listen, I never would have ever guessed in 2010, 2011, that I would have ever walked away from a successful career in corporate America. Just wouldn't have. Right? But there were events happening in 2008 to 2010 that were catastrophic in a way that started me down a path of like a new direction. And by 2011, I get bit by a tick, come down with Lyme disease, and now I'm forced out of working. On top of that, I filed bankruptcy that year. I lost all my investment properties. Like the world was turning upside down around me. And I look back at it and I go, God had to put me through those chain of events in order to get me to go towards my new purpose. You know, and the frustrating thing was, and it wasn't until I saw it that I became excited again. But in the process of going through this valley, I'd never been so downtrodden, depressed, and upset in my life. Like I'm losing my health, I'm losing my wealth, I'm losing my career. I'm losing everything. I'm losing everything around me right now. And I wanted to fight it. I wanted to fight it and go back. I wanted to hold on to what I had. I wanted to get back to where I was. And the best days are now behind me. No. The best days are now in front of me. And I just needed to accept where my purpose was and how it had shifted in my life. And then I needed to get passionate about it. And then I needed to get obsessed about reaching it. And once I did that, I started to see success again. Right? And it doesn't mean that it's every day is an easy journey and it's an easy jump, but like it's that passion, that obsession to reach success that just keeps you going. I've lost my dad and my mom 9 months from each other. Within a year after, COVID kicking off and the world turning down around us. Like I'm at a point in life now where I'm like, bring it. You know what I mean? Like there's more and more problems that just keep coming our way. And it's like, you know what? Bring it. Because every single time they come and my world gets reshifted and I follow it and it gives me a new purpose, man, the passion that leads to obsession drives success again. And I know the day will come that my days on this earth will be numbered and the next obstacle in my way will be that of death. And the next journey from that is, what this afterlife brings and what my walk with God will bring for me. But you know what? Until then, I plan to stay very, very driven, very, very passionate, and very, very obsessed about the right things in my life.
When someone says, hey, Gary, I am obsessed about this, and you look at them and be like, no, you're not. But they're convinced they are, right? They're like, I'm driven, I'm obsessed, I'm whatever. And you look at them and you're like, you're not really. Like, I know you think you are. What are some, for lack of a better term, metrics or ways I can look at my life and say, am I truly obsessed about this, or do I just want to be, and I'm, convincing myself that I am? Obviously, you're with a lot of leaders, a lot of businesses, guys that are, very driven individuals, and they're very, they're trying to even sell themselves on their vision, on their obsession, and you look at them and think, bro, you're not really like that. You're not really that way. You need to be, but you're not.
I mean, it comes down to, at the end of the day, like what level of discipline are they willing to have to get it? Like we all want to be rich. We all want success. We all want to have harmony in our life. We all want levels of peace. We all want healthy bodies. We all want these things. But the question is, like, how disciplined are you enough to get it? Because people that are obsessed with getting there aren't willing to let obstacles stand in their way to slow them down. There's a verse in the Bible that says, let us lay aside every weight that so easily beset us. Right? And it's the little things. I find the difference between the people that are passionate and the people that are obsessed about doing it, it's little things. They're easy to do, but they're also easy not to do, the little things. When I struggle with weight, it's because I'm not willing to do the little things. I'm not willing to track my macros. It's easy to do. It's just easy not to do. I'm not willing to hold myself accountable and have enough discipline not to, sneak one little slice of pizza. And that's the difference. Like I could lose weight, right? Being on a diet, watching my caloric intake and things like that. But when the pizza comes in the house for everybody else that's not on a diet, I look at that and say, I've been really good this week. I'm just going to have one slice. And I'll still lose weight. The scale will still be nice to me that week. But it's the difference between being passionate about losing weight and obsessed about losing weight. Because when I'm obsessed about it, I'm like, no, I'm not eating the pizza. Well, you could have one slice. It's called a celebration meal. No, I don't want a celebration meal. I don't want to do this until I've reached my goal, period. And the difference is like how fast I will reach my goal versus yours. And that's the difference. And then what happens is people go, well, I'm not going to do that in life because like I'm still going to enjoy my life. And I'm still going to have that one slice of pizza. And I'm going to still have that one drink of alcohol. I'm still going to have that one little smoke on the cigarette or the vape pen when they're trying to get healthy. And the thing is like, but you don't really want it. Because if you really wanted it and you were obsessed about it, you would say, no, there's nothing that's going to stand in my way of getting there. Versus people that are just passionate about it. They kind of want it. Eric Thomas said, when you want it more than you can breathe, then you'll be successful. Right? He has a story about taking this young man who wants to be successful out to the ocean. He says, meet me there tomorrow morning in your suit and tie. Kid shows up there and he's like, what are we doing? He's like, you got to go in the water with me. He says, bro, I'm wearing a suit and tie. He says, I know. He says, I got a suit on. He says, I know. Come out in the water with me. He said, bro, I don't want to destroy my suit. He said, well, success is out there in the water. He's like, you're going to have me go out there in my suit in the water. He's like, well, how bad do you want it? So the kid walks out into the ocean with him and he grabs him and he holds him under the water and won't let him up. The kid's fighting and, biting his way, trying to get up. He's holding him down just right before he loses his last breath. He pulls him up. He said, boy, when you want to succeed more than you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And that's called obsession. All right. Like when you're willing to forfeit the other things that you call as conveniences and pleasures, not a responsibility, but pleasures to get it, then you're obsessed about getting there. Now, again, not discarding the fact that you should be so obsessed. Here's what can become the dark side of obsession is when you forfeit the responsibilities in your life. And I think that's the difference between an obsession and an addiction. Right? When you start to forfeit the responsibilities you have, Dylan, you have children. If you chase something else in life right now, and it forfeited your responsibility of being a good dad, that's not healthy. That's not the right thing to do. Right? That's a level of addiction versus an obsession. Because an addiction is something that we're obsessed about that doesn't bring us good result. It doesn't support us. It doesn't benefit us in any way. It's just something that we've become obsessed with doing. That's not healthy. But when it can be a healthy thing, a healthy chase, something that we're passionate about, that supports our purpose, that supports our responsibilities, in that moment, when I validate it supports my responsibilities and it supports my purpose, you better believe I'm going to be very obsessed about getting there. And it takes character and discipline to do the little things. And that's the difference between the little things is the difference between passion and obsession.
So moral of the story, don't go swimming with Gary because he might hold you underwater.
Or Eric Thomas, apparently.
A good segue into vision and personally and casting that vision in your company. Obviously, this is something you teach in the Rise Business Framework. Maybe give me just a 30,000 foot view of vision in a company, and we'll kind of dig into those pieces.
Vision happens in two ways. Vision happens in a long-term way and a short-term way. Long-term vision is meant to inspire people, right? Where short-term vision is meant to drive results in the company. There's a program out there like 13-week year and Scrum and things like that. They're operating systems that help you get results. And that's what they're meant for. Because why? They're short-term vision. In 2020, COVID of 2020, let's go back mentally to March, right? And if you don't know where you were or where I was, but I was at a company a mastermind called Collective Genius. And actually I have my whole family with me there and my son-in-law and, his brother and his girlfriend and like lots of people were there with us. We were having a good time in San Diego and went to La Jolla Beach. And that's the time that we were like starting to learn that COVID is very real, right? Like it shut down baseball. right? Like, and that was a moment for me. Like, a lot of stuff was happening, but the moment it's like it shut down this multi-billion-dollar organization, in baseball, I'm like, okay, this is an event. Like, this is a big thing. And it was that same time that week, all these fearless entrepreneurs coming together, and like half of them were like, I'm going home, right in the middle of the event. They just packed up and like, we're going home. And by the end of the event, there were probably 25 people left, and we were all sitting at a round table in a room, just kind of like planning. We're having this conversation of like, what do we do? How do we get through this time now that everything's going the way it is? And I remember thinking to myself, like, I've got to get my family home safe, and we got this whole COVID thing's kicking off, and the following weeks were surreal. We look back at it, and I remember thinking like everything was like 7 days to slow the spread, and we're shutting this down for 7 to 10 days, and everything went to what we call short-term vision. Like nobody was thinking out to the end of 2020. Definitely weren't thinking in 2022, 2023, 25, 2030. We weren't thinking there. We weren't thinking about who the next president was going to be in 2020. Like nobody cared in that moment. Now, in the sequencing months, it definitely became more, evident that it was going to become a focus. But like that next 6 weeks, nobody cared. You know what people cared about? They cared about getting the results of killing off this virus so it didn't kill a bunch of people. And so short-term vision had to be the focus because we needed to get results. And I started to wonder, like, how did this whole thing affect business in 2020? How did everybody focus in on short-term? And a lot of clients I coach, man, I was like, the 1-year plans we just did with you, throw them out. We had just finished with Ryan Pineda, and coaching him in January 2020 and implementing for him for the first time. And I remember thinking, like, we just wasted like all this 2 days creating a vision plan past the next 90. Like none of that matters right now. And we get to the end of 2020 where everybody focused short term. Everybody went to like 1 week when COVID was bad to 3 weeks to eventually 90 days of focus again by the end of the year. But it took the whole year to get us back to thinking like, what are we going to do in the next 90 days? And we get to the end of the year and I called our clients and I asked a lot of them like 2020, better year or worse year than 2019? You know what they said? Yeah, every one of them. Now, I know that there were businesses that struggled that year. I think, short-term rentals businesses struggled that year, probably one of the worst years for them. But in general, the clients we worked with had a better year that year than they did in 2019. And I got to thinking about like, man, it's this vision thing. It's this short-term focus. Everybody was laser focused on what they had to do, and it drove the results. But then I asked the second question, like, how do you feel about it? How did you feel about 20? Dylan, how did you feel about 2020?
There were other things going on as well in life. It was intriguing year to say the least.
Yeah, but COVID as a whole, how did you feel about that and how it was affecting the world?
Not good as a whole.
And the uncertainty of it, right? Like there's a lot of uncertainty. And that's what I heard when I talked to our clients. They're like, I just don't feel good about it. Like, and what happened was you take these visionaries who are now forced to think in the 90-day and short-term vision, and they could not think in the long-term vision. And guess what they lost? They lost inspiration. They started to feel down. They're like, man, I made a lot of money this year, but I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. Like, it just doesn't feel good anymore. Like, I feel like I'm not striving for anything. Right? And because of that, the inspiration was lost. And right before I surveyed the people with the second question, I was sitting there contemplating, man, I've been building vision plans for 20 years. Like, does long-term vision even matter? Like, I mean, really, if short-term vision drives the results, why do we need long-term vision? And it wasn't until that second question of being answered, I thought to myself, man, it matters really big. Like, we need it for hope. We need it for inspiration. We need it to like inspire us to do something outside the box and innovate and try new things. And it was crazy because the world craved it so bad going into 2021. Look at how many brand new businesses were started. Uber and Uber Eats and all these innovative companies that started to really, Tesla, all these companies really started to like take off. and it was crazy what started to happen. Why? Because innovation was unlocked. Because people are like, man, now that the clouds are cleared and I can see where this is going and what it's going to be, and although there wasn't stability in the virus and what didn't really happen for another 2 years, totally 2022, we started to see the mask come off, if you will, metaphorically and physically speaking. Masks started finally coming off in 2022. Like took 2 years, but like in that 2 years, like people literally started to see like where the world was going and what it was going to need, and people started innovating products and creating solutions, and long-term vision came alive, and man, wealth was built. And so that's why we have both levels of vision. We have a short-term vision to drive the results that we have to be laser focused on. We have to be, we can't overstate it. We can't overplan it. We can't make them BHAG goals. We have to be realistic, achievable goals that we can get results from, because our employees get excited about getting results. Your majority of your company is made up by people that are tenacity driven, that want to see the results come in that you said we were going to do. But the visionaries, the leaders of the organization, need to be inspired. And that's where long-term vision comes alive. And with both of those working in combination with each other, we have a great success recipe.
Give me some examples of, of vision, long-term, short-term. Just to delineate between, I feel like in people's minds sometimes there's a lot of overlap between, obsession, passion, vision. Are we just saying the same thing three different ways? So, examples of vision, and how does that differ from, within like our purpose as a company and those sorts of things?
Well, I mean, long-term vision encompasses the passion. It encompasses the purpose. It encompasses some of those big BHAG goals. But that's what makes it longer term, right? Like long-term vision is just about the time frame in which we're going to focus on it. And so, like, you could have a purpose and a passion that's brought all the way down in your short-term side of your vision, but most people keep it out there in the long term. I like to not only have it in the long term, but I also like to measure it in the short term. So, for example of that, like our purpose is to do a good work to support God's work. That's our purpose. How do we measure that? Well, I mean, the measurement for it was to give 2.6 million to God's work by the end of 2026, going into 2027. So that was our purpose indicator. But that only inspired me, man. Like everybody on the team's like, that seems like undoable. And it might be. It's not my purpose. So God gave it to me, and I'm entrusted in Him to help deliver on that. And if He wants us to deliver on it, then He'll make it possible. If He doesn't, then you know what? It's on Him, right? Because I feel like I partnered with Him to get us there. But I'll do my part. I'll obsess about getting us there because I have a responsibility to the purpose. Now, I like to bring it down into short term to get the results. So, like, your mom runs our finances, and every Monday or Tuesday, that's actually Tuesday, every Tuesday she takes 2% of all her revenue and moves it to an OPM account, other people's money account. And that money sits in there for us to give away to God's work at the end of every month. And somebody from our leadership team, you've been the recipient of giving before from it, and we give to a cause that we have deemed a God's work cause. And then we give the money that's sitting in that account for that last 30 days to that cause. And that's how we drive the results of that long term in a short term vision. 2% of revenue given monthly by somebody on the leadership team, right? So there are ways to take it, and purpose and passion, it gets created, but it lives in all aspects of your vision, right? But long-term vision is really more like north of 1 year. You get 1 year or later out in the business, now you're looking at long-term vision, 3 year, 5 year. Jim Collin calls it a BHAG goals, like big, hairy, audacious goals. Those are part of what a long-term vision plan. And long-term vision is meant to be inspiring. It's meant to be aspirational. It's meant to challenge you. It's meant to make you think outside your box. It's not supposed to be easily to achieve, and it's also not going to be 100% accurate. It's long-term vision, right? So a lot of people think, well, I don't want to put that down. I'm not sure if I can even get there. Well, that's the point. That's the whole point of long-term vision. It's to inspire you to go, the possibilities of this. This is what we could do. right? Versus what we will do. And what we will do is 1 year or less. We got to be locked in on 90 days to 1 year to say this has to be measurable. This has to be achievable. This has to get done, right? It's got to be very smart goals in the 1 year and the 90 days to get the results of the business. We need a business performance to match the 90 days in 1 year to make sure that we're protecting the results of the business. But anything outside of that really is we allow our clients to be a little bit more broad in their thinking, and we encourage them to expand that mindset and the possibilities and the what if and how could we, and like that would be amazing moments. Like that's what we're looking for. Why? To inspire. If I was looking at you and I'm like, hey, what we did last quarter, we're going to, in 5 years from now, I want to do a third of that. Like by the time we get 3 to 5 years down the road, Dylan, I want to be able to eliminate your position. Right? Like, I don't think I'm inspiring anybody with that. I'm like, I don't know if I really want to be a part of this. All he's trying to do is drive it in the ground at this point. But when people think and feel that you're pulling them or they're pushing you towards a bigger purpose, a bigger cause, a bigger achievement, higher success, like people want to be a part of that. Baseball is that way. I mean, think about it. Nobody wants to go play for a team that doesn't want to spend money on the future. Baseball players all the time are making decisions, football players making decisions based on the future of the team. Who's the coach? How long has he got a contract for? What's the farming system look like? Who's coming up? How many, first round draft picks does that NFL team have? Like, what does the future look like? So if I go be here, or am I going to feel inspired to want to give my all today for tomorrow, for the results of tomorrow? And if you don't have that, and you don't have inspiration, you don't have a plan, you don't have a future, it's not inspiring, then people aren't going to stay there. You're not going to get good talent. And that's why that's so important to have the difference between long-term and short-term.
I personally, felt the effects of that, of seeing like 5-year vision and realizing that I have to be somewhere in 3 years and in 1 year to even accomplish that. Like, it's not, I have to do, it's not tomorrow. It's not going to happen. It's a 5-year goal, and it's a big goal. Right. And so if I'm going to hit that 5-year goal, I have to hit a 3-year goal, and I have to hit a 1-year goal. And just to see that, like you said, the inspiration drive down to, today of, in my department, I'm going to record this podcast. I'm going to make the social media post. And it seems very far from that 5-year goal, but it inspires you to do the work because of what the possibilities are. And knowing that I cannot get to that goal without putting it in today. I also think without that, it removes people definitely from the day-to-day process. It removes people from being inspired at an incredible high level when there's a lack of that vision.
Yeah, I mean, we're work together in a company called Rise, Rise Business Framework, and in that company, the goal of that company is to sell for $130 million. Like that's the goal. Like, how can we sell this business for $130 million in the next 5 years? Well, part of the reason why we do the podcast and we do, the daily videos, and we're, pushing towards a cause is to be able to sell that for generational wealth. I partnered with Brandon in that business to create a generational wealth type business for our futures, for whoever we want to be and how we want to get there. We have another business called the Rise Generation, totally separate business. But in that business, the goal of that non-for-profit is to give back to the world missions and invest in our youth and things like that. That business won't be sold, right? Like that's not a part of it. It's a non-for-profit. And we have other businesses, and they all have their purpose. Sharper Consulting and Business Solutions is to give $2.6 million, right? We're Sharper Talent. That's not their purpose, right? Sharper Process and Systems Effect, that's not their purpose. But Sharper Consulting is. That's their purpose. And so every company has to have its purpose. And then you have to get people that are willing to be a part of that based on it and whether or not it drives them to their passion. One thing I like to do is when I know a company's purpose, the way I get people passionate about it, because people might be asking, like, how do I get my leaders passionate about something I'm obsessed about? Well, you have to tie their personal purpose back to the company's purpose. Dylan, you said, you have a purpose in 5 years, a vision in 5 years from now. Well, like, can you see you accomplishing that vision 5 years from now by being a part of this? And when you say yes to that, guess what? You've hooked your wagon to our, into our truck here, and it's gonna pull you towards your purpose, pull you towards your vision and accomplish your goals. And when that happens, you get passionate. What are you passionate about? You're not passionate about what I'm doing, you're passionate about reaching your goals, and you see this as a vehicle to getting there. And that's all I need as a leader. I just don't want people on my team that go, yeah, I don't see how this is going to help me achieve anything I want to do in life. Well, then you shouldn't be here because you're not going to be passionate about what we do. And I was with a couple of teams in the last couple of weeks, and they're like really struggling with this purpose. And I'm like, guys, just keep it simple. They're like, well, I just feel like simple doesn't really make it profound. And I'm like, how does it not make it profound? I said, at the end of the day, people don't care. They want to just know that you're passionate about it. They want to know you're obsessed about it. I was with a team a couple weeks ago, and they're like, winning moments. That's their purpose. They want to create winning moments. And they're like, how do we make that really like everybody excited about it? I'm like, are you excited about it? He's like, well, I am. I'm like, well, you have to be the one. You have to be the one that's so excited about these winning moments that everybody around you gets excited about that you're excited about it. And you know what? He's like, well, how will that make them feel? Like if I'm the only one excited about it. I'm like, sit down and attach their purpose and their goals to winning moments. Like a winning moment might be that you buy your house. A winning moment might be that you got married, or winning moment might be that you paid off your debt. Winning moment might be that you helped your family members out. Like that's a winning moment. And we're going to celebrate every one of those winning moments that you have as an employee here while you're an employee here. And we're going to help you achieve those winning moments. And they're going to be like, wow, I'm excited. I'm passionate about it. And they are, because it ties them back to their purpose.
What do you think the impact the Trump tariffs going into place will have on small businesses?
Well, I mean, it depends on the business and what their consumers, where their consumers are, where they're getting their product and stuff from. But most small businesses are not utilizing, third world countries or things like that to get their products. It's usually like a Lululemons in Vietnamese or in Vietnam. But I think like most of your small businesses, your day to day, your local businesses aren't getting it now. There could be some things that are going to come around towards that, but I here's how I feel about it. I think it's great for small businesses right now to be American first, because with American first, like you can actually go invent and create competitive products right now based on stuff that's not going to come into the United States anymore. You know, like Nike, for example. Like Nike is a great shoe, and I really like Nike. I get a lot of Nikes and bought them for years. But the truth is that in case the tariffs are, there's some relief from them, that could really impact those shoes and how they're being produced right now. But like, why not create a new brand? Why not create a new American-made product that's locally made here in the United States? I mean, I think Ford is doing a great job right now of like taking advantage of it. Like the commercials over, the Final Four this weekend, tons of like, Ford commercials talking about we're made in the United States. Tariffs aren't going to affect our price, blah, blah, blah. Now, if that's true or not, I don't know how many other parts come from the United States. Some of the parts might come from other places that tariffs are going to affect. But I think all in all, like it shouldn't impact small businesses as much as it's going to impact the bigger businesses for sure.
Obviously, a lot of your clients are in the real estate space, whether directly or indirectly. What do you think? Any short term or long term effects on the housing market?
Well, I mean, right now the housing market is affected by the current economy. So like it's inflation's up, people, interest rates are up, inventory's low. There's a lot of things that are happening right now because of the current economy that's hurting real estate. In reality, in my opinion, I think, and this is just Gary Harper's philosophy, I call it Garyology. At the end of the day, I think interest rates are going to come down because of them. I think the economy is not responding well to the tariffs. I think you see it in the market, lots of money lost in 48 hours, a little bit of stabilization on Monday, but nothing really dramatic. And I'm not a stock expert, nor do I even invest in stocks. I think it's an unstable market. I mean, talk about gambling. I think it's, a legalized form of gambling, right? Like, I think it's all it is. But at the end of the day, like the market's doing what they're doing. Um, I I'm guessing at this, but I think Trump kind of wants the market to be where it is. I think he wants it to drive inflation down. I think he wants it to drive interest rates down. He's already calling out the Federal Reserve saying, "Hey, why aren't we dropping interest rates? Why aren't we dropping interest rates?" Like he wants the interest rates to drop. We got to refinance the national debt, and the interest rates on it need to come down. Like we need to be able to do that. So I think with that being said, like interest rates come down, honestly, if the economy gets bad and unemployment starts to go up, honestly, unemployment rising actually affects, real estate because people go into foreclosure and they lose their homes and it puts more inventory back in the market. And it's not a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. At the end of the day, though, it does increase the opportunity for real estate, right? Now the negative side of that is, with more inventory, interest or ARVs will drop. Once things are worth, or you have more availability of houses, they become more competitive in price. So like there are plus and minuses to all this, and I think ultimately in the short term, I think in the next 90 days we're going to see interest rates come down, and when that happens, I think people are going to want to buy. I think they're going to want to buy houses. I think new builds are going to be a popular thing because we have an inventory problem right now. So like it's always real estate's a fluctuating thing, and people got to keep their eye on it every quarter because what is working this quarter may not be working next quarter. And we've seen people make a ton of money and novations over the last couple of years, and now it's like, is it really working as much as it used to? So like there's that. But I think tariffs are going to have a positive impact on the real estate market short term.
So overall, you think it's a good thing?
Well, I mean, I think it's a necessary thing. I don't consider it good or bad, to be honest with you. I think it's just necessary. You can't continue to take advantage of the United States. You just can't. Like we're the United States needs to be at a point, we all do collectively, Democrat or Republican, and we need to be at a point where we're just tired of being taken advantage of. We're tired of paying high prices on tariffs that are levied on the United States. And we're actually in a strong position if you think about it. We've got the lowest amount of tariffs on most of the countries around us, but we're the highest leveraged in tariffs of the countries that are and we're reduced to amount of goods that can go into other countries. And so like, what do we have to lose? Like, what are they going to do? Like, put the tariffs even higher? I mean, and if they do, like, it's like playing with a hand of twos. Like China is like, well, we're gonna levy you with more tariffs. Okay, you're playing with like twos right now. You understand that? You already have a large tariff amount on the United States. We're just going to keep increasing ours, and eventually they're going to be the ones that losing this tariff war because we have little to lose with this. We're already at a high tariff, right? So like the United States is already leveraged there. So like we have a winning hand by doing this. Now, does it make it a good thing to do? I mean, I would say that the people who lost money in the stock market the last 48 hours don't feel like it's a good thing. I would say that, people that are, trying to make businesses successful. And the truth is, the person who's going to lose really in the United States is the people that are trying to build a business or have already built a business. And they built it based on the way the world was structured. So they sent stuff overseas to get produced. They sent the things to get produced at a cheaper rate. And they've already set their pricing based on the cheaper labor or the cheaper costs and things like that to bring back into their businesses. And then now they're going to get leveraged, levied on with these tariffs, and that's going to affect those businesses. And when those businesses get affected by it, there is a passing on of the cost to somebody, and American people are going to feel that. Now, a lot of theory there. Like if that does happen, but we're getting enough money with the External Revenue Service to come back in and lower our taxes, well, then that balance things out again for us. Like, but all that's theory right now. Like this is very uncharted territory, and honestly, it should scare every American to some degree to not know what is about to happen. Now, perspective. I can get excited about it. I can look at it and go, here's what the possibilities of it are, and here's where it could go. But it also have to be a realist to what could go wrong too. So I think, I don't think it's good or bad, but I do think it's a necessary evil at this point, right? Like we can't continue the way we're going. The deficit and our debt is just way too high in the United States. We have to do something different, right? We have to. And the fact is, we've been living in an inflated economy anyway. It's going to come down at some point. There's probably not a better time where we're prepared, in the United States financially to incur this change than probably right now. And to be honest with you, there's probably not a better time to endure it.
I was watching an interview with I think it's the Secretary of the Treasury. He's done a few of them, I think, lately. But he's just point blank asked, like, is this going to work and stuff? And he gave a clear answer of like, I'm not really sure. All I do know is that what we're doing currently is not working and is not sustainable. And so we have to do something different. And by all our theories and hopes, this will work. But we cannot continue on the path that we're going down. So we have to try something different.
Well, I can tell you for one thing for sure, history will tell us a story, and it will either go down as the most influential, smartest president to ever walk the face of this earth, or the biggest bad boof that we've ever seen sitting in the White House. Like it's going to write the story at some point here. And the only thing we can hope for, for as an American is, and I would say this whether it was Biden in office or Trump in office, is pray and hope that we have the right leader in that office today. Like pray and hope that we all made the right decision and God ordained the right person to be in front of the United States as a leader, as the president of this free world. And if he's not, and he's making bad decisions, it's what we have now. Where we are in the economy and where we are with the president and what we have in front of us, it's kind of like how I feel when I'm at 38,000 feet in the air in a plane. I'm trusting it. I believe the pilot's the right pilot, right? I believe this plane is going to make one more good flight while I'm on it. Like all those things I'm believing and I'm trusting. But there ain't no guarantees. And the truth is, I've already made my decision. I'm already in the air. And at 38,000 feet, there ain't nothing I can do if this plane doesn't come down safely, right? Like it's out of my control. It's kind of where I am right now with our economy and the world. It's like, I'm trusting it. I'm hoping. I think we're doing the right things. I know this couldn't sustain itself the way it was. I know that, we had to make a change. I know that we had to get interest rates and inflation down. I know we had to do these things. I know we had to create free trade. I know all these things is what sounds good and it looks good and it hopefully is good. But man, we're at 38,000 feet now. So we might as well just like buckle in the seatbelt, hold on tight, and hope that we land safe.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Hope the plane doesn't crash. That's good.
Either way, the tariff is still there.
I think, it's just the desire is equality in trade. It's not that we're doesn't seem like we're imposing anything that's not equal. And I think that's what's being brought to the table is lower your tariffs and we're just matching it. But
yeah, I think it's foolish what China just did with raising them and, getting into this tariff war. I just think it was foolish. I think, like I said, I think they're playing with a set of tools. And I don't think they're got a high chance of winning this war from that regard. So we'll see, man. Smarter people than me that are forcing these things. And, at the end of the day, I pray and hope it's intelligence driving decisions and not ego. That's all I say. If it's ego, we could all be in trouble. If it's intelligence, hopefully we land safe. It's controversial, but I don't really care.
Do it, say it.
Consider yourself rebuked, Harvard Business Review.
You have to earn the right to get to the next level.
Process audit, not people audit.
I just want to see this done faster.
How many licks does it actually take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I was kind of being facetious a little bit.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
2,
Screw.
1.
But we can cut that out.